Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I see a few more attendees logging in, so we'll begin in a minute to give everyone a chance to get settled. All right, good day everyone and welcome. My name is Felicia. I am the webinar event specialist at DLT Solutions, where we accelerate public sector growth for technology companies. Before we get started, let's go over a few housekeeping items. Your lines are muted for the duration of this event. However, you are encouraged to drop any questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A or the chat field. If you would prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. Submit text questions and again, questions through Q&A or the chat function. You will receive the gift card code of your choice in the next hour. You will also receive an email with the recording within 48 hours. And tell us how we did survey. Today's agenda will be Splunk introduction, which is what we are doing now, our dashboard insights, compliance data opportunities, SteelCloud's dash view example, and our wrap-up questions. Now, just a brief introduction of our presenters for today. So Brian is the founder of and COO of SteelCloud, a company that develops technology for automated remediation of endpoints to the DISA. Sorry, Brian, if I am ruining this part, the STIGs and the CISO security benchmarks. We also have Lerry Wilson with us today. Lerry is the Senior Director at Platform Ecosystem and Innovation for Splunk and is responsible for identifying, enabling, and scaling ecosystems to support data insights that transform businesses in every industry. Really quick, before we get started, we're going to go ahead and run a poll for you.
Well, Felicia, thank you very much. This is Lerry, everyone, and I really appreciate the chance to be here. Thank you to the SteelCloud team for giving us this time. So, hey, just so we can get started here and get into the really meat of this, let's make sure we kind of know a little bit about our audience. So we're going to have a little bit of polls throughout the day. But the first poll here is, what is your level of experience with working with dashboards? If you could all take a minute and look at this, you can see the three responses: none, intermediate, and advanced. And I think you know, that's obviously a key part of what we'll be talking about today, and what you learn a little bit about what Splunk offers you from a tools perspective, but more importantly, what SteelCloud is doing with that, because getting data in is what Splunk is really, really good at, and then helping you make decisions with that is, and how to present that is really based on the audience that you have and the expertise that you need and the decisions that you're trying to answer. So hopefully everyone's had a little bit of a chance to look through this and put your answer up there. So Felicia, Brian, any thoughts you want to add here while they finish up their polling?
Looks like we're still waiting for a few people to respond. If you don't see the polling question on your screen, you are more than welcome to add your answer in the chat. And sometimes that's helpful as well.
Great.
All
well,
right.
I think
we're good.
Do we have some results there, Felicia? Or?
Let's see. Did those pop up on your screen there? It doesn't look like we had anybody answer.
Okay. Well, hopefully by the end of today, everyone will feel better about the opportunities. And if you're at the none, you will learn quite a bit about what SteelCloud is doing with that. And if you're at the intermediate and advanced, hope that you can progress along that as well. So let me just start off by telling you a little bit about Splunk and kind of where we fit. And again, kind of as a platform, how people like SteelCloud are advancing our technology and our data analytics platform into very exciting areas and huge problem sets for their customers. So on the next slide, you'll see a little bit about about who we are as a company and kind of our founding. We've been around for about 15 years, actually almost 20 now. Wow! And we are a very large company. We did about $2.5 billion last year, growing very, very quickly. And we're really just riding that wave of data that people are so interested in and putting that to work. So our solution is really a data platform that really allows you to do things like security, observability, but you can also do a lot of custom application work just on the data that you get. So I think the next slide will tell you a little bit about who some of the customers are, and those organizations we do are in 98 of the top 100, and people use this for a wide range of technologies. With that, these are some really nice, obviously some really nice folks. And again, this is just meant to show you, as we move to the next slide, this is just meant to show you, the confidence level that people have in this. And again, I was talking about riding this wave, and this wave is really built around machine data, growing 10 times faster than the business data. And by correlating and taking all that data across from different data silos, we're actually able to do that. This quote that is here, I think that was coined back in 2012, and I still use it today because this is actually a captain in the Air Force, and he said, look, soon we're going to be swimming in sensors and drowning in data. And I think that's what a lot of companies feel like, and that's what Splunk is really good at, is helping you really make sense of that data. So if you kind of look at the next page, right, what we really do is help you kind of sort through all this different types of silos that are there, not having any visibility across the different processes or the different systems. And again, what we're going to talk a lot about today, what SteelCloud is doing, like taking that information in the security realm and adding compliance regulations and compliance reporting across that area. So you end up on the next slide with something much more, much more focused. So as we think about, if you think about Splunk, right, it's really built on our platform, and our platform is really the key to everything that we do. We have this concept called schema on the fly. And so what that means is that there's no ETL, you don't have to get the data organized before you can start working with it. We actually bring data into our platform, and it allows you to search it very quickly, irrespective of whether it's your router data or your server data or any other type of IoT data. It comes into our system. You then have a Google-like interface, is what Splunk is, where you just start to query and look for different types of things. So we, on top of that platform, Splunk has built and manages themselves and maintains our security and our observability products. These are things that are very, very critical to our customers, and we're always looking at how we improve those and move forward. But also on top of that platform is something called Splunk Base. And if you go to www.splunkbase.com, you'll see a collection of Splunk-built and community-built, what we like to call GDIs, getting data in type of solutions that allow you to very quickly bring in different types of data types. And then that allows you to really build on top of it. And again, this is what we're going to spend the rest of the time really talking about is, in most cases, right, the output is going to be dashboards. And that's really telling the story helping tell the story correctly to the business owner of what's going on with the data. So we bring in logs, metrics, traces from all over, different types of places, help you make sense of those, query those quickly. And then once you query and you find what you're looking for, you can very quickly turn that into a report. And then you can also then take, again, do what SteelCloud is going to show you and take that and move that into into a dashboard. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of appreciation of kind of the underlying technology that SteelCloud will be talking about today and what they've built upon. So I think we have one more polling question on the next slide, and then we can, oh, I'm sorry, one more slide here. So this is something that I really like to point out to people about why what we're doing is so important, right? If you look at, this is a KPMG study from 2019. If you look at what the skill sets are that people are looking for in their organizations, it's really, number one is always about big data analytics. And Splunk is a great tool for people to learn that are doing that. Cybersecurity, we're going to talk about, artificial intelligence, enterprise architecture. You can see the list there. Those are the most scarce types of skills, and so we're looking at, how do we do that? And I always like to make sure that people understand that it's worth investing in understanding Splunk. We offer a lot of free training and different types of things, but obviously what SteelCloud is doing is much more advanced. They're really experts in terms of what Splunk can offer, and especially in the dashboard area. But with that, let me close on Splunk and where we fit in the universe of big data. And let's look at this second poll real quickly, if we can, Felicia. So as you think about now, we've talked a little bit about Splunk and this idea of data silos. I think one of the key challenges that we really want to understand as Brian takes over is, what information do you currently have access to? What percentage of information do you have access to in order to do your job? And again, the three things is, if you feel confident that you have most of the data that you need that's accessible to you, if you really only have some, or if that's a daily challenge. And I will tell you that a lot of those logos that you saw previously, if you want to go ahead and answer this poll, a lot of those logos you saw previously, they still fight with number 3 as well. So again, it's going to depend on the business case that you want to solve. It's going to depend on the end user, and it's going to depend on the accessibility of that data. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. We would just like to know kind of where you sit and how you how confident you are in the information that you need to do your job.
All right, looks like we're getting some responses in. Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay. Just give it a couple more seconds here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna.
What is your guess?
I'm gonna avoid my gut on this and go let everybody speak there without any bias. But I'll be very interested in see what this one is, because this is a big discussion that we always have with people.
All right. We're getting, it's kind of fluctuating between most and some.
Okay, good.
All right.
That's very positive for the rest of the presentation then for you, Brian. So you can take over from here and show them what they can do with most or some of that data.
So we got 40% most, 33% some, and 27% getting needed information is always a challenge. So there you go.
About a quarter. Yeah. I would expect that's pretty close to what I'd say. Quite candidly, I would say, based on my personal experience with customers and partners, is that's high on the most.
Okay.
I would expect the majority, more than 50%, to come off the bottom 2 categories. Is that kind of what happened?
Yes, exactly. That's cool. You predicted that one.
Yeah. So we've got a good representative audience here. So okay, Brian, show them what they can do.
Can I have control?
It should have allowed you 1 second. Yeah, it says you got it, and we're seeing your screen.
You're seeing the polling question?
No, we see your desktop.
Hold on, wrong screen. Sorry.
No worries. All right, there we go.
Here we go. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'll start with one slide on SteelCloud. We're a compliance software vendor. We are located in Northern Virginia, up in Ashburn, about 25 miles from Washington, D.C. We've been doing compliance work primarily in the federal government for the last 13 years. Most of it is delivering automation software. We have hundreds of installations across the government, commercial, and integrators. Kind of the reason we put this webinar today is we wanted to create dashboards for our customers. Compliance is one of the biggest applications their dashboards are used for, but it was really hard for us to get any information that allowed us to follow someone else's footsteps. So this presentation is kind of an after action report. We're not trying to sell anything here. We'll take you on SteelCloud's journey, what we did, the kinds of considerations after the fact that we found were important. And hopefully the information I'll talk about today will help all of you as you look to how you may automate some of your data access, data automation requirements. Again, as I mentioned, we have a lot of government customers, both military and civilian, as well as our partners or all the large integrators that deliver programs to the federal government. Interesting, when we went out to our partner base and said, do you have any great dashboards that you've used for this kind of compliance work? We didn't really get what we expected that we would get, which is kind of why we went out on our own and built our own dashboards. Let me set the stage as we talk through kind of some of these considerations of what a use case may look like. So just imagine an organization that has multiple locations. Okay, that could be multiple enclaves, it could be multiple physical locations, have thousands of compliance devices, be they switches, routers, instances of virtual machines or physical machines. And every week they're managing, hundreds of thousands of controls, recognizing that a single Windows workstation, if it's STIG properly, probably has an excess of 1,000 to 2,000 controls on each one. So all these are data elements that are part of a compliance program. So in terms of requirements, and a lot of kind of what we heard was the requirement is we want to centralize a view of our data. Got a lot of data, got a lot of location, want to centralize the view of the data. And so the solution is, because management wants this and they're paying the bill, is that we want to provide the management a dashboard of shiny dials that can tell them what to do. I can tell you from our perspective, those two things are fraught with danger, and the project will probably fail, primarily because centralizing data is a great requirement, but it's not a big enough requirement to actually drive a successful program. And so we'll talk about some of the areas within compliance that can be automated with dashboards and give you both a great experience and real value to your organizations. Okay, polling question 3. If we could pull that up. The most challenging regarding compliance data is visibility to inform actions, maintaining risk awareness, trend analysis, or discovering endpoint compliance drift. So the poll should be open.
Right, yeah, we've got some answers coming in here. Looking good. What would you say is more challenging? What do you feel is more challenging? Brian?
I would say visibility to inform action, and we'll get more into that. It's kind of the hidden with the big data can provide.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and I would second that in terms of from a Splunk perspective. People are always very interested in turning data into actually action, and that's what we always, that's what they're really focused on, and where we focus the platform on again, how you rapidly get that data into a situation where you can turn it into action.
I think you both are going to be really surprised at the results. All right, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and close our poll now. We've got about 44% of the visibility and then 56% of the trend.
Okay.
So
wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. I'll continue. So let's look at the dashboard opportunities. Larry talked about a lot of capabilities, a lot of technology. How can we boil that down, and what opportunities we have kind of from a general standpoint, and then we'll get into compliance. Certainly consolidating data. You know, sometimes applications are dispersed, and bringing that data into one place that it can be used is of real value. The other thing that applications can't do on their own is bringing the data together from multiple applications into one place. So you may have an application with its own data store, but if you wanted to combine others, dashboarding is a great place to bring that into. The other is transforming data. Lots of operational systems produce data in specific ways to help the operation doing specific tasks, and it's a lot of it is very kind of reporting audit. This is what I did type of thing. So a dashboard will allow you to de-operationalize the data, meaning that you put it in a different form, so a different group of people. You know, maybe the data is created for IT people, and now auditing people or you know, cyber compliance people need to see it. So the data can then be reformatted in a format that's more useful for them. Integration and normalization, as I mentioned before, multiple applications that allow you to normalize the data between two or more applications so they all fit together versus each application having its own. Summarization and calculation. You know, a lot of this is the management dashboards, but there's a lot of useful data that's only useful once it's been summarized and presented in a way that it's useful. You can't, you know, a million rows of something isn't very useful, but trends or summaries or deltas, those are good. The one thing a lot of people miss is the security of data. I mean, I may have a production application that outputs reports, and I can't pass these reports around because certain people can't see certain data. I need to strip the IP addresses from something. And so bringing them into a dashboard allows you to create secure views of the data that that doesn't have certain data that certain people cannot see. And operational systems many times don't have that. They're assuming that people in the operation can see all the data that they're producing and accounting for. And the last here is data archival. Again, many operational systems, including SaaS systems, they purge themselves for performance and costs and all kinds of things. And an organization may want to keep data longer. So dashboard is a great place as a centralized long-term archival mechanism. So the other thing when we're looking at dashboards, before we jump into compliance, are operational issues. And a lot of times these are kind of forgotten. You know, how do you get the data? I mean, do you have to connect APIs? If you're outputting text like CSVs or JSON files, how are those going to be identified and picked up? How are you going to move the data? If you have multiple sites and multiple applications, data has to be moved from one place in your network to another place through networks and firewalls. And when you're moving data, what kind of automation is provided? Does it require human intervention to move the data? If it does, you're going to have issues because humans have other priorities and they'll forget to move the data, And 2 months later, you'll find out you're not getting updates from a certain application. Parsing data. Data stream comes in, it has to be identified, normalized, put in some useful form, so some capability to parse. Filtering data, this is one I put in kind of the last minute, and when I'm out in the world, a lot of people talk, oh, this is so expensive and that is so expensive. Well, they send their dashboards information that's not used by anybody for anything in the dashboard. So I would recommend that you look at filtering data that's extraneous or duplicative, so that you're saying the dashboard application, the things you're actually going to use. And lastly, someone's got to build the dashboard. So that's a purely operational side. In choosing a platform, we kind of lucked into it. When we chose Splunk, we had a very short list of requirements, and it really was, what do our customers use? We weren't as sensitive to a lot of things. We knew it was a big player, or the biggest player in the marketplace. It probably had the capabilities that we'd use, but we really looked and said, what are our customers using? Because we wanted to create this application that would fit in with our customers' infrastructure. So when you look at costs in different platforms, you have startup costs, operational costs, and licensing. And a lot of times people just look at licensing, and certain products have certain capabilities that allow you to do something 3 times as fast with half the effort. Well, those have a bigger impact probably than licensing do. Expertise. Do you have staff that knows how to do something? Can you get consultants that have that? That's a critical factor. As a matter of fact, when we were building our dashboards from the purely technical standpoint, we hired a consulting firm to help us on the kind of the plumbing and the more highly technical issues, while we did the kind of user visual issues. Completeness, you got to have all the operational things done and nailed, in the automation, because dashboards have to be automated. They cannot rely on human folks. And flexibility, and again, not a big factor when we were making a decision on our platform, but we discovered on the second installation how important additional capabilities that we didn't think about were to the success of a huge program. As we've said a couple of times, the key is actionable data. The one thing that I think that that folks probably don't spend as much time on when they're looking at dashboards, because they're thinking of, I centralize my data, I'm going to get views, I'm going to have time elapse. But it really is, what actions can I do now that I have this dashboard that I could not do, or it would take me an amazing amount of effort to do without the dashboard. My recommendation would be based on actual jobs. And I don't mean jobs like I'm a SysAdministrator administrator, or I'm a ISSM or ISSO or a CISO. I mean jobs like, I have to produce this report, I need to check this data. The things that you're required to do today, or your customers required to do today in their job, and at minimum list all the things that you want the dashboard to do that you can't do, or it requires a lot of effort to do. A number of those things you can do is identification of failed human processes. This is a big area of dashboarding, that it's not technology's failed, that you're getting something you expected to work, but when you put the data together and you look at it, you go, our processes aren't working. And so that's a big area in compliance that you can really identify through dashboards. Big data allows you to find hidden things that you never would have seen, even looking at individual compliance reports. So use the big data aspects to identify those issues. Naturally, data reduction, summarization, those are always important, especially as you go up the leadership chain. Another thing that the world has fallen in love with. I mean, I guess it really started with, you know, ATMs and self-service gas, and now it's self-checkout at the grocery store. People love self-service. One of the things that a dashboarding can do is allow you to create views for leadership in which they can service themselves. No longer do they have to ask for a report once a week. They can go and get the data that they need on that report, you know, every day. And it's not just leadership, it's SMEs and other folks across your organization. Really concentrate on that self-service where people don't have to be using spreadsheets and other things. They can get the data that they need. Certainly data centralization. Another one that's really important in cyber is auditing. You can have specialized data views that are built specifically for the job of auditing, specifically for the data that they're looking at. So instead of them having to go to individual reports or go to sit down with individual people and go to individual machines, all that information would be available in a centralized fashion in exactly the format necessary for them to complete, you know, their audits quickly. Data repurposing is not something that SteelCloud has done, but in my travels since we started our project, I find that a lot of organizations are using their dashboard and Splunk specifically, where you bring a bunch of data into a centralized facility, you normalize the data from multiple applications, and then you output the data to another system. So you're really using the dashboard as a data translator, in addition to all of the other types of things. But the key here is make it actionable. If you look at the DashView solution, again, it is a COTS application that we built on the Splunk application. It amalgamates multiple implementations, multiple enclaves of data. It uses big data concepts. It runs in either Splunk or Splunk Enterprise. It ingests our standard JSON files. And then one of the things that we learned since then, as a customer asked us to, hey, you know, we have standardized on a different technology. Can you think you could do something with it? And we said, sure, we'll take a look at it. We did it once. Most of the work from our standpoint with Splunk was actually envisioning the dashboards, the calculations, and the useful data. What we found out was, from a plumbing and a building standpoint, it was literally 5 times as much effort. And so we gave, it would be cheaper for us to give the entire Splunk infrastructure to the customer than to redo what we did in that technology. And provide multi-user secured access to data, which they wouldn't have. Many of the people that need this data do not have online access to our remediation system. From an automation standpoint, pretty simple. Our systems produce JSONs. The JSONs are picked up by a Splunk forwarder, and they are brought into the Splunk Enterprise infrastructure. They're automatically parsed, and dashboards are produced. The key in the way we've done that, I'm again only bringing it up as a great example of from when the customer, if they're hits the button to say, go remediate these 1,000 endpoints, to that data is available in their DashView Splunk dashboard. There is no human that does anything. The information's produced, the information's picked up, the information's parsed. All the dashboards are populated within minutes with no human intervention in this process, which means that the people that are doing the work, their data automatically goes in, and we're not failing because someone was on vacation that week. In look at putting the compliance data at work, we started out with your traditional kind of Google Earth hierarchical view, where you go to enterprise, to site, to endpoint, to policy, to control. If you think about it, it's a little ridiculous to think that that's a solution, because the only reason you'd ever want to go to an endpoint and a policy and a control is if you saw something else. And so when looking at something else, the horizontal views are really more important, where you're looking for trends in groups of systems. So trends by operating system, trends by location. So if one part of the enterprise is is more successful in their compliance than another, you can track that and determine what's going on in that organization. Compliance by app stack. This is one we missed in our development, and one of our large integrator partners came back and said, we really like a dashboard for compliance based on app stack across our infrastructure. One thing we do that's a little unique, I'm not seeing in other dashboards, we calculate drift and prioritize drift. Drift is, since we're an automated remediation system, we fix everything. So when I have the status today and I've remediated everything, we're as 100% as you can get it. Now, a week from now, if we have to remediate everything, and we have to remediate a control that was compliant a week ago, and we trap the before and after, what's happened? What's happened in the environment that's causing a control to drift? And again, using big data concepts and prioritization and summarization, you can see, are there trends? Are there areas within an organization that need retraining, or processes that don't work because we're getting more drift than we should have? Tracking waivers, those controls that can't be implemented, which many times are trapped in a Word document or in a Stig viewer checklist someplace. Now we're making all that information available to anyone who has online access. Speaking of checklists, we also make all the manual checklist data available to the dashboard, stuff that had never been available before. So these are your manual controls, inherited controls, documentation, the things you can't scan or remediate for, we combine and provide those into the dashboard. Certainly heat maps. So when we go to the Google Earth hierarchical view, one of the reasons you even go there is because you look at the heat map and you determine there's a problem. When we look at actionable data, we're really looking at what is going on in the environment, what policies and procedures aren't working, what training and organization needs to happen to make things work better. And we really have built our application within Splunk to allow organizations to look at that. Since we've already solved kind of the compliance issue, we're looking at some other issues. And the other trick was to build something. If you're a down on the metal SME doing compliance work, you get everything you need. But leadership that's looking at summary data gets what they need, and everything is easy enough for people to get to without much training. So what can you actually do? And I mentioned some of these. Identify drift. Okay, a lot of times your production systems won't do that. Automate ITSM tickets. As I mentioned, this additional automation we didn't realize to our second implementation. It was a large Air Force customer, and they wanted to kick off ServiceNow tickets based on very specific things that were being ingested into our Splunk dashboard. And lo and behold, Splunk has a whole bunch of automatic integrations, and that was kind of almost an afterthought of how easy it was to automate that function. We built up some rules based on if this and this and this happens, then do this. We also kicked off certain emails to alert people. You can use it for GPO defects. So if your compliance side is recognizing that another system like Active Directory is taking out of compliance, those can be highlighted. Compliance by app stack, as we mentioned, comparing different groups so you can see where are our best practices within our organization. If we've rolled back any processes, so when you've done a rollback, especially in production, a rollback is there has been a mistake made. Now, if it's once a week on one endpoint, not a big deal, but a dashboard will let you see whether this is an issue for a specific application, a specific infrastructure or group or location, and determine if something's going on that needs more human attention. Allow you to, if you can bring waiver information, again, that's usually stuck in some other system. If you can bring that into your dashboard, you can be looking, when you're looking at your compliance data, you're looking at your machine controls, you're looking at your human controls, and you're looking at the waivers. all in the same data structure. So again, those can be maintained. Another thing I mentioned in the process we've built, which is highly automated, we can track whether the people who are supposed to be scanning and remediating their systems are actually doing their job. If we don't see a particular infrastructure we're not getting data from in the cadence that we expect, that we can kick off a ServiceNow ticket to have that looked at. So again, it's lots of operational things, lots of people things can be ascertained. Once you bring it into a repository, normalize the data, and build job-based dashboards. So recommendations for success, starting with identify your own BS, and I don't mean what you think I mean. I mean bodacious solution. Dashboards will really work if you're going to rock your organizations, your customers' organizations, with what you're going to accomplish with a dashboard. It's a lot easier to get things done when you have a big value you're going to provide your own organization. Get the operational issues right. Make sure the automation is there. You don't want the dashboard to be another manual process that someone has to remember, and a list and that kind of thing. Certainly pick the right tool for the job. This is not a presentation to recommend a tool, or it's just, you've got to have your requirements together and make sure that you have something that will do everything you need. Agree upon changes in processes and procedures. Just like any other automation you bring into your organization, if you don't make fundamental changes in your process and procedures, you're just not doing enough. You don't have that bodacious solution, because a well-constructed set of dashboards should have fundamental changes in how you approach the work of compliance. Commit resources, whether they're internal. And again, from our experience, it was great. We had internal people that were trained up in the process. We had some external people that helped us along the way. Very cost effective and very successful for us. Like any other project, track your progress and deliver on that big solution so you can change your organization. So those would be my recommendations. So polling question number 4. How would the ability of compliance data, kind of as we've described here, making that visible to your organization, impact your organization or your program? So we'll open the poll.
All right, here we go.
I'm hoping for a lot of "Are you kidding me" on this one, Felicia.
I'm sorry. I just it's one of those, Okay, all right. We've got some going between huge and massive. Not really. Are you kidding me? So, Okay.
We have a serious audience today.
All right. It's almost Friday. Okay. Let me put this here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll out. So we've got 43% huge, 57% massive. What does that tell you both?
That's amazing. Well, as we get ready for the Q&A, Brian, thanks again for all your support of Splunk and everything that SteelCloud is doing. Again, great to have the partnership, and you guys are really taking advantage of all the best stuff. So I really wanted to say thank you again, and thank you for the opportunity to be on here and chat with this audience. And any questions or anything that comes up, I'm happy to stay on.
Wonderful. So I know we're about time. I did have a few questions that came up. We have one that I'm not sure if, I'm sure both of you can answer to this, but the question was, can you talk about data security? Not sure if you need more elaboration on that, but that was one of the questions that came up.
I certainly can offer, our view in our discussions with our customers and our RSIs. And two things. One is the existence in a single repository of certain data. You can put one piece of data that's unclassified, another piece of data that's unclassified, and another that's unclassified, but all three live in the same data set. It becomes classified. So that's one piece. We don't run into that a lot, but that is one piece where you're combining that data. Certainly it's easy enough to create secure dashboards that only people that have access to a certain amount of data can do. But especially in the Department of Defense, there is that other little thing that those three pieces of data can't even exist on the same in the same data set. And then, so, what we would do in that case, because we do run both JWIC's SIPR and NIPR implementations, is you just set up another instantiation of your dashboard, which is easy to do, and you separate the data. And so what the government's telling you, if that requirement happens, what the government's telling you is you cannot have a combined view of these two or three pieces of data. Beyond that, other data that's just need to know data, again, super simple, build dashboards, don't include certain data on it. Dashboarding is a perfect way to slice your data into need to know segments and present them to the right people.
No, I think that's good, Brian. If I could add to that, right? I think in addition, what people are actually looking for is what we're starting to see now is more of the automation and remediation. Right? So the concept of SOAR, where you can actually very quite confidently, based on the patterns and the anomalies and different types of things, you can actually get the systems to actually work to prevent any type of security issues. So, again, big data underlies a tremendous amount of capabilities, AI being one of them, machine learning. So again, this is why it's really important that this is the huge value of big data, is that it can start to lead to much more certainty with regards to patterns and identifying anything that's outside those areas. So I think that, and then of course remediating that automatically. So I think where we talk to our customers about it, it's really about helping the SOC people find things faster, and then and how can we set up those types of playbooks and different types of things that respond to any type of potential security issue.
Wonderful. Do we have enough time for one more question?
Sure.
All right. So there are a lot of good technologies available like Splunk, but for many application areas, the dashboard just never gets done. Why not? I guess this could go for both.
Well, yeah, I think the I'll just tell real quick, Brian, from my perspective, right, is what we find is dashboard efficiency and efficacy increases as you elevate inside the organization the eyeballs on it, right? So if you're building something for a senior manager or a senior executive, there's a lot of focus on the dashboard and making sure that. But as you move down into different roles, sometimes it's just looks much more like a report, and that's okay. So I think that oftentimes it's just a kind of byproduct of who's going to be looking at it, and how much time and effort needs to go into that. But we certainly see that has a definite impact. So
I kind of set it up in the presentation. I think a lot of them in our travels don't get done because they haven't defined, they've defined a wish, but they haven't defined a need, and they've not defined the value. I mean, most projects have an ROI. And so again, my suggestion is visualize the things you're going to do with it that really make a difference, allow you to change the organization, as opposed to, hey, we're just going to have one. I would, though, absolutely agree. If you can have senior leadership touch the data, the whole world becomes easier for everybody. The people that pay the bills and manage the budgets, and dashboards are a great way for any organization or application to get the full chain of leadership involved at whatever level they need to, and whatever level of detail they need to involve in the data. But I would start with finding some real need and some problem you're really going to solve with the dashboards, and that'll be it. And sometimes that's as little as, hey, we need to see multi-site, but there's other things as I presented that from a compliance standpoint you can look at.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Brian and Larry, for allowing us to get a preview of Splunk and SteelCloud's capabilities and features. And thank you to those who participated. As a reminder, today's session was recorded and will be provided to your mailbox shortly. I believe this concludes our webinar for today. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you, Brian and Larry, for your willingness to get this information out there.
And Larry, thank you very much for your help today.
No, thank you, Brian. If I could just leave one thing, one plug for everyone. If you want to see some of the latest dashboard technology that Splunk is offering, go to that splunkbase.com and look for Dashboard Studio, and there's a lot of pre-made templates and different types of things that can get you a little bit started on the way. But really appreciate everything that SteelCloud is doing, and this is exciting to see, and appreciate the partnership. So take care, everybody.
Have a great day, everyone.